Ever heard of a queen who spoke 9 languages, commanded armies, and almost single-handedly held off the might of the Roman Empire? Let's talk about the one and only Cleopatra. When you hear her name, you probably picture a legendary beauty, maybe even Elizabeth Taylor in that famous movie. And while she was undoubtedly captivating, Cleopatra was so much more than just a pretty face. She was a brilliant strategist, a skilled diplomat, and a true scholar. Born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that had ruled Egypt for centuries, she was one of the few rulers of her line who actually bothered to learn the Egyptian language. This wasn't just for show. It was a clever political move that endeared her to her people, making them see her not as a foreign ruler, but as their own. Cleopatra's world was one of constant political turmoil. The Roman Republic was expanding, and Egypt, with its immense wealth and grain supplies, was a prize they desperately wanted. Cleopatra knew she couldn't fight them head-on. So, she used her sharpest weapon, her intellect. She forged powerful alliances by winning over 2 of the most influential men in Rome. First, there was Julius Caesar. When he arrived in Egypt, he wasn't just a tourist. He was chasing his rival, Pompey. Cleopatra saw her chance. According to legend, she had herself smuggled into the palace, rolled up in a carpet, to get a private audience with him. Caesar was completely captivated, not just by her charm, but by her intelligence and political ambition. Their alliance was both personal and political. It secured her throne and gave Caesar access to Egypt's resources. Together, they had a son, Caesarion, whom Cleopatra hoped would one day rule a vast Greco-Roman empire. But fate had other plans. Caesar was assassinated in Rome, and Cleopatra's world was thrown into chaos once again. She had to navigate a new political landscape, one now dominated by Caesar's heir, Octavian, and his charismatic general, Mark Antony. Cleopatra's meeting with Mark Antony is the stuff of legends. She didn't just meet him, she made an entrance. She sailed up the river Kidneus on a magnificent barge with purple sails and silver oars, dressed as the goddess Venus. Antony was instantly smitten. Their connection was immediate and passionate. It was a partnership of equals, a powerful love affair that shaped the course of history. They ruled the East together, dreaming of a new empire with Alexandria as its capital. They had 3 children, and for a while, it seemed their dream might come true. However, back in Rome, Octavian was using their relationship as propaganda. He painted Cleopatra as a decadent foreign sorceress who had corrupted a noble Roman general. He declared war, not on Antony, but on Cleopatra herself. This was a calculated move to unite Rome against a common enemy. The final confrontation came at the naval battle of Actium. It was a disaster for Cleopatra and Antony. Their forces were defeated, and they were forced to flee back to Egypt. As Octavian's legions closed in on Alexandria, the tragedy reached its heartbreaking climax. Hearing a false report that Cleopatra was dead, a devastated Mark Antony took his own life. When Cleopatra learned of his death, her world shattered. She knew that Octavian intended to parade her through the streets of Rome as a trophy of his victory. A proud queen to the very end, she refused to suffer such humiliation. The traditional story says she died by the bite of an asp, a venomous snake, and a symbol of Egyptian royalty. Whether that's true or a romanticized tale, her death was a deliberate act of defiance. It was the final move of a queen who had controlled her own destiny her entire life. With her death, the reign of the pharaohs ended, and Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. But Cleopatra's story didn't end there. In fact, it was just the beginning of her legend. Romans tried to erase her, but they only made her more famous. For over 2,000 years, she has fascinated poets, artists, and historians. She's been portrayed as a seductress, a victim, and a brilliant leader. The truth is, she was all of those things and more. She was a woman who dared to challenge the most powerful empire in the world, using her intelligence, charisma, and courage. Cleopatra wasn't just the last pharaoh of Egypt. She was an icon who proved that power comes in many forms, and a legend that will never fade. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next historical adventure. See you in the next video.